The Sega CD. How well we all remember how many games came out, and most of them were FMV, and how sucky the resolution was back in the day. Well, guess what? If you remember the most controversial game that ever came out on the Sega CD, Night Trap, it's going to get a re-release. I not only have this, but I also have a companion article to go with this one. And this one is by Destructoid.com. So let's share, shall we? Controversial ultra-violent 90s full-motion video game Night Trap will, according to director and current rights holder James Riley, come back in better resolution and gameplay than before. We just want to be sure it's the best strategy for all involved. Writing to fans, he said, I appreciate your ongoing interest, but please understand I do plan to re-release Night Trap and have been talking with a number of interested parties to do so. However, the specific platforms have not been confirmed. Including online, and I will let you know once we have a definite plan and release schedule. As much as Night Trap is a game you point to when talking about 90s FMV titles, I don't know that I actually genuinely be interested in paying for a new version outside of the novelty factor. So, following this, says, point blank, Night Trap will come back, says creator. Infamous 90s FMV title to come back in better resolution. The notorious Mega CD title Night Trap will be released in the future. Its co-creator has confirmed. James Riley, who holds the rights to the game, told the closed Night Trap Facebook community the news earlier today. And I had this up for like a couple of days now. About 3 days. Been wanting to get at this. I wanted to get at this article, but life, you know. Anyway, not interested in that. Thank you. The community has been trying to persuade Riley to re-release a remastered version of the game or sell the rights to someone who will, in the hope they can play an improved version. Excuse me. An improved version with better quality video, no longer affected by the heavy compressions used in mid-90s FMV games. I appreciate your ongoing interest, Riley replied, but please understand I do plan to re-release Night Trap and have been talking with a number of interested parties to do so. However, the specific platforms have not been confirmed, including online. I will let you know once we have a definite plan and release schedule. Night Trap will come back in better resolution and gameplay than before. We just want to be sure it's the best strategy for all involved. Night Trap gained notoriety in 1993 due to its full-motion video graphics and its premise of a group of teenagers in a house being stalked by vampire-like creatures called ogres. It was one of the main games that led to congressional hearings on violent video games and the subsequent creation of the ESRB. Yeah, I remember back in the day when the Sega CD was indeed popular. I had a few games on there. More than likely, they weren't like full motion. The only full motion game I actually ever had was pardon. I'm just waking up and now I'm gonna go back to bed. Yeah, what I said before, the thing The only game I actually ever had that was FMV was Sewer Shark. I wasn't interested in Night Trap, Ground Zero Texas, um, Mad Dog McCree. I wasn't interested in all that. I wasn't even interested in Double Switch or or any of those, or even Corpse Killer. I wasn't even interested in any of those games. I was more interested in games that I don't mind playing, like Sonic CD, Lunar Silver Star, Eternal Blue, Popful Mail, Vi. Mainly, all my Sega CD games were basically that of Sega and Working Designs games. Because back in the day, Working Designs was indeed a name. It was a name before it went down. It went down after the re-release of the second Lunar game, which came out on PlayStation One, which came out on PlayStation. But I can tell you, for those who actually like Night Trap, I can only say if you like Night Trap or any of the old FMV games. Excuse me if I'm yawning. Like I said, I have this. Whenever I go to sleep, I always sleep for 2 hours and I come back up. I don't know why I do that. Maybe it's because I have the computer on and I'm listening to music and all of a sudden music goes off and bleh. But back to the subject at hand, Night Trap. I do remember that Night Trap was one of those games that basically caused a lot of controversy. And it was probably the last acting role that Dana Plato had before she passed away. But, to be honest, in all honesty, this is a game for those who, want a challenge. Like people who wanted to up that difficulty, because FMV, whenever you play an FMV game, it was either hit or miss. That's all it was. It was hit or miss. It wasn't more. It was more or less about control. Because some games were about control. Some games were just mainly on sequence. Sewer Shark was one of those games you had to play on sequence. Night Trap, Night Trap was more or less. You had to basically check every room all at once just to make sure. Okay, this trap. Just to make sure. Okay, if this is happening, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. You had to make sure all the traps were getting set up at the same exact time. I've seen a long play of it. It's not easy, but I can tell you, it can be done. However, like I said, Night Trap was one of those games you basically had to have your internet web tingling. You had to have your internet web senses tingling, okay? It's like, just imagine if you were looking at the internet with, let's see, 8 different TVs or something like that. Yeah, eight different screens. That's how you have to picture it. That's how you have to picture playing Night Trap. You're looking at the internet. You're looking at 8 different sites on 8 different monitors, and all you're doing is like, you don't want to miss anything. And if there's like a bug in the system, like boom, 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 boom. You basically had to trap every one of these vampire-like things, and pretty much that's it. Keep the women safe. That was the entirety of the game. And like I said, when I actually had my Sega CD, I wasn't into any of that. Because, like I said, I was into games like Sonic CD, Popful Mail, Vi, Fatal Fury Special. I was into the games that, actually went somewhere. I kind of wish I had Snatcher as well, but mm, where I lived, they didn't really sell that many games. I mean, really, we didn't have a GameStop back then. We had Electronics Boutique before it became GameStop. So in some areas it was Electronic Boutique. Some areas were Electronic Boutique. Some areas were GameStop before they got big. So there was EB Games and GameStop. They were two separate entities before they combined to become a bigger GameStop. But in any case, to some people, and I'll be honest, to some people it might be a good thing because nostalgia. Nostalgia is always a wonderful thing. Plus, all they had to do is just change the resolution, and pretty much it's just cleanup. Because there was nothing bad about the game. It was just the resolution. I mean, imagine playing Dragon's Lair or Road Avenger in a different resolution. And trust me, I played Road Avenger before. You've seen it on my channel. I just never got around to finishing it. But that's neither here or there. Because really, if you think about it, it might be a good thing, or it might be a bad thing. But who's to say? Because honestly, imagine what they would do if Night Trap were to be re-released and say it would go on Steam. Then so many other games that were FMV related would go on Steam. Hell, Harvester is one of those games that are somewhat FMV related. But yeah, it's still an FMV game. It counts as an FMV game. But still, point is, when you have something old from the 90s make a reemergence in this century, you can't deny that this is telling you something. That if you go back a decade, you'd be amazed at what you could find. It's the same with anime. You go back a few decades, you be amazed at the stuff you can find there. You can find like a whole bunch of anime you've never heard of. The same can be done with anything. You can do it with games. You can do it with movies. You can do it with hell, anything in general. Clothes. You can do it with clothes. And nostalgia, let me tell you, nostalgia is a wonderful thing. Because, honestly, nothing's wrong with nostalgia. It's the best thing you can ever have. There's some things you can't remember that were, mainly the good times. You never want to focus on the bad times, but you focus more on the good times. That's the wonderful thing about nostalgia. Night Trap, I can tell you, if you're into that, kudos, give this man some credit, and tell him, tell him you want to see more of Night Trap. If not, well, that's on you. But in any case, I've got nothing else about Night Trap. Really, I don't. Because I'm really not into those sort of games. I mean, the last FMV game I actually tried playing and did okay with was Kamen Rider ZO. And for those who don't remember that game, it was an FMV game, just like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You know, you would have to push the exact button as prompted on screen. Yeah, it was like that, but basically more like where you gonna go, and then you switch from the kid to ZO. So I don't know. I may want to do that as a one shot later down the road. I'm not entirely certain, but it is worth. But if you haven't played Night Trap, if you have a Sega emulator of any sort, whether it's Gens or Fusion or whatever, try downloading it, play it for yourself, and see what you think. If you're good at it, hey, post it. If not, well, at least you have experience in playing the game. So with that, I have been the Tenkaichi of Gaming, Pookie Izzy 7, and of course, if you have any thoughts about this subject, please leave your comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. So with that, have a great rest of the day. I'll see you in more videos later on. And of course, Tenkai Muso.